Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down some of the biggest flaws with Bobby Slowik's offense and the Houston Texans, and some things that they could possibly do to fix some of these problems before it becomes too late and the Texans are bounced out of the playoffs. So, Bobby, if you're watching, first of all, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that sub button and like the video. Number two, listen up. Put your listening ears on and let's listen, because we need to figure this shit out before it is too late. And I want the Texans to surprise everybody and go on a run. And I don't care if some Texans fans are down and out. I don't care if some Texans fans are already checked out of the year, because I'm not. I'm ready to watch this team go on a magical run, and I'm ready to go party on Bourbon Street in New Orleans for Super Bowl week. So let's get it done, and let's fix this shit right here. Let's have, come to Jesus moment. Let's have everybody come together, and let's figure this out, Bobby. And like I said to Bobby, if you haven't already, join the family. If you love this team no matter what, hit that subscribe button. We're trotting along to 24,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get there before playoff time. So if you haven't already, go down, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. All right, let's look at some of these offensive problems. Number one, this team cannot ID/block the blitz to save their life. It is something that, the amount of times that I've seen a pass rusher knife right through the middle of this Texans offensive line untouched for a sack is absolutely disgusting. And I've seen this clip on the All-22, and it makes me absolutely want to puke. Here's the start of the play, right? So obviously you see it right here. It's a pretty good view. You have 4 down linemen, 2 outside linebackers, the middle linebacker. Okay, right? You have the running back on the right side and the tight end on the right side. So you'd think, all right, you have some extra protection on this side. Maybe we want to make sure the left side's okay, right? Right? All right, let's go to the next clip. We have your center, Jarrett Patterson, and your left guard, Titus Howard. No one. They're blocking no one. Joe Mixon in the middle of the offense. No one. They're all blocking no one. And if you look on the other side, there's a blitzer coming off that left edge. And wouldn't you know, when nobody blocks him, he ends up getting the sack, and the Texans have to punt on this drive. Come on. You can obviously see there's something wrong with the identification of the blitz pickup. I don't know if C.J. Stroud needed to shift the coverage going to the left. I don't know if he needed to switch Joe Mixon from his right hip to his left hip. Regardless, this whole play was shit because the Texans couldn't block 4 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 guys. They couldn't block them. And this is just one of many instances where the offensive line just doesn't pick up the blitz at all. It's not even an attempt to pick up the blitz. They just look lost. They look like a 4-year-old in the middle of Walmart that lost his parents, and they have to go up to the front desk. Mr. Chuggs, please come get your kid at the front. He's lost. That's how Titus Howard and Jarrett Patterson look on that play. They look like they have no clue what's going on at all. Joe Mixon doesn't even realize until it's way too late that he needs to go over and block that side and pick up that blitzer. And it's just so obvious at this point that it's a coaching/scheme problem. It's not a talent problem, because it's not like anybody got beat on that play. You just didn't even have anybody blocking him to begin with. So at that point, what are you going to do? If you're letting a free rusher come at C.J. Stroud, you just hope that he's going to make a miss and make a play and be able to scramble? No. He's dead to rights. He's dead to rights right here, and it's because you have 2 guys who are looking out, blocking absolutely nobody. So I'm going to give you a quick fix for this. And obviously, the quick fix is, pick up the blitz, ID the blitz better. But I think the bigger problem is we need to get the plays in a lot sooner. How many times do we see C.J. Stroud coming up to the line of scrimmage, and there's 6 seconds, 4 seconds left on the play clock, and he has to just immediately snap it? He doesn't have time to ID the blitz, change the coverage along the offensive line, or shift Joe Mixon from his right hip to his left hip, which C.J. Stroud's not, immune to some of this kind of, I wouldn't say blame, but yeah, blame. C.J. Stroud does shoulder some of that load as well. But if we could get the plays in just a little bit sooner and have this offense set up so we can actually see what the defense is trying to do, maybe you won't have free blitzers coming after your quarterback a lot whenever they send stunts and exotic blitzes, just like on that play. But I'm going to ask you, give me your opinion. Who's most to blame for the offensive struggles right now? Do you think it's Bobby Slowik? I know a lot of people, they're upset with CJ Stroud and how he's played. The offensive line deserves a lot of the blame too. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing, scroll on down and give me your honest opinion. Who's most to blame for these offensive struggles? Number 2, the run blocking has been atrocious. Makes me want to throw up watching this Texans offensive line try to run block. I mean, it has been atrocious. The Texans, they are 30th in the NFL in run block win rate per ESPN, and per PFF, they are the 28th ranked unit. And I would say if you look at any advanced statistic, if you look at it, maybe you don't like PFF. If you look at any advanced stats for this offensive line, I would say they all rank probably in the bottom 5, if not the bottom 6 or bottom 7. This offensive line has been trash. And shout out to Joey Mix, shout out to Joe Mixon, because he has single-handedly put the team on his back and the running game on his back. I believe if there was another running back there who wasn't as skilled and talented, the Texans would easily be the worst rushing team in the entire National Football League. And this is actually going to come to a surprise to a lot of people. The quick fix for this, you got to stop running out of 12 personnel. And I know that sounds a little odd whenever I just put it out there. Stop running the ball out of 12 personnel. But listen to these numbers. And if you're new, maybe you're not, well versed with the NFL lingo or football lingo, 12 personnel means 1 running back, 2 tight ends, which you see a lot of. A lot of Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, and then single back with Joe Mixon in the backfield. But the Texans, they run 12 personnel 32.2% of the time. So almost a third of their offensive plays, they're in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, and 1 running back. Out of those 32.2% of plays, they run the ball on 57.7% of those plays in 12 personnel. So over half the time they're in 12 personnel, they are running the ball. And the EPA per rush, so expected points added per rush, is actually negative when running the ball. Negative 0.12. So it's very obvious when the Texans are trying to run the ball, they kind of keep everybody consolidated. And sometimes they, I will say running out of 12 personnel, I do like when they send the tight end in motion and kind of give them some momentum to get into a block and kind of maybe chip the edge or push the edge out. But most of the time running out of 12 personnel, this team hasn't been able to do it. So why not switch things up? Why not run more out of, maybe a 4 wide out and try to spread the defense out and give Joe Mixon a little bit more room, a little bit more running lanes? It seems like it's always too congested for this Texans running game. And like I said, Joe Mixon, he's been putting the team on his back. If it wasn't for this guy right here who the Texans traded for this offseason, I'm adamant the Texans would have the worst rushing attack in the entire National Football League. We have some more fixes for this Bobby Slowik offense. But first, got to tell you about my friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all football season long. And it's not just the Texans. You can also look at college football. The college football playoff is here. It's playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best play to win cash while watching the playoffs. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. And if you're maybe in the middle of the day, I made this on the last day of 2024, so first off, Happy New Year's to you. But if you're watching the college football action today, this is the lineup that I put. So let me know down in the comments. Did I win? Let me know. Quinn Ewers, I went 2.5 passing touchdowns. I went the more. Dylan Gabriel, 1.5 passing touchdowns. I also went the more. Cameron Scatabo, I went the less on the rushing yards. And Sam Levitt, he's been talking a lot of mess, so I went the more on the interceptions with him. Use my picks. Go against him. Just do it over on Prize Picks. And for my viewers, I have a great deal for you. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So get started with my friends over at Prize Picks. Run your game. Number 3. I don't claim to be a expert, film analysis, breakdown type of guy. But more often than not, I feel like the route concepts for this team, I don't know if they're not run right or if they're just not schemed well, but they're bad. And I'm not saying that Tank Dell getting hurt is on Bobby Slowik, but this is the route tree that Tank Dell got hurt on up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And what do you notice with these two routes right here? They're running into each other at the very end. Obviously, you saw that during the play. That's what hurt Tank Dell. But I don't know if it was designed like this, but if it was a design for Tank Dell to run a deep crossing route and then Jared Wayne to run a kind of seam fade route from the slot position right there, I think that's an awful play design because you at the tail end of these routes where you ended up getting a touchdown, you had your two guys collide with each other. And more often than not, if you're having routes that end up in the same spot, especially when the rush is getting after CJ Stroud and he's having to evade the rush, then what happens? You have 2 or 3 guys standing right next to each other and CJ Stroud doesn't have anywhere to throw the football. So these concepts are getting stale, and more often than not, you have guys standing next to each other, and that's not what you want to happen on offense. You don't want your receivers right next to each other because then technically you have basically 2 defenders right there kind of guarding the same guy, and everything just gets too congested. So this isn't – I know it's quick fix, and I know this is a pretty vague concept, but you need to get more creative route concepts going. You need to make sure that at the tail end of their routes, you don't have 3, 4 guys standing right next to each other because that's not going to help anyone, Bobby. That's not going to help anyone. And I know that's more of a vague answer, but something that I've noticed throughout the season, that the route concepts, they just don't seem – I mean, watching Monday Night Football and watching Ben Johnson go to work with the Lions, it is like watching apples to oranges. It's like watching somebody do elementary math and then somebody doing trigonometry. It is so – it's like they're playing 2 different games, Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowik, because the concepts that they run, the routes that they run in Detroit, far superior to what the Texans are doing in Houston. Number 4, awful screens and trick plays. I've said it before that the Texans, every time they try to run a trick play, it seems to backfire and kick them in the butt. And I want to give a quick shout out to my friends over at the Texans 22 podcast. They actually did this video. This is what the thumbnail looks like. They did this video after the Chiefs game talking about the wide receiver screens and how none of them worked at all. And I couldn't agree more after watching these videos that the wide receiver screens and what we do with that part of this offense is atrocious. It almost never seems to work out either with these wide receiver screens. So basically, go watch that video first of all after this. Texans 22, shout out to them. What I gained from it is better blocking and quicker throws. The blocking with wide receiver screens, the wide receivers aren't able to get out in time and not able to, set up good blocks. And also, a lot of the times these wide receiver screens are coming off kind of an RPO motion. CJ Stroud will get the snap, kind of put it in Joe Mixon's belly, and then throw it out. By that time, the safety or cornerback or whatever defender's out there has time to read and react and then kind of get a jump start on tackling whoever the screen passes to. It almost seems like, if you got it out there a little bit quicker, more of an element of surprise, you'd be able to kind of get a couple extra yards. But almost every wide receiver screen, it seems like the Texans are getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So you need better blocking from the wide receivers. Xavier Hutchinson, he works his ass off, but more often than not, I've seen him in these wide receiver screens getting beat by cornerbacks trying to block them. And then, like I said, CJ's got to get the ball out of his hands just a little bit quicker. And I know it's not just me. I know it's not just me that is getting upset with all these screen passes. So I want to know. I can't be the only one. Type me if you've at any point this season yelled at the TV for Bobby to stop calling these dumb wide receiver screens. I can't be the only one who sees it. Type me if you're with me because it is getting frustrating. It is like hitting your head up against the wall constantly watching these wide receiver screens happen during these Texans games. I can't be the only one. So if you're with me, if you've done that at some point this season, Just type me down in the comment section so we know that we're not the only ones and we're not crazy. Am I crazy, producer Reed? He went like this, so I'm not crazy. There you go. Type me down below if you're with me. And lastly, and this isn't me, this isn't an indictment against CJ Stroud. This isn't me saying I think he's not the guy. I will stand pat, stand on 10 toes, and say CJ Stroud is my quarterback. He is still the guy for this team, and he is who I want to take us to the promised land. I believe in CJ Stroud, and I believe one day he will take the Texans to the promised land and get this team to a Super Bowl. But with everything going on this season, all the flaws on this offense, I think CJ's tried to play a little bit too much hero ball. The offense is slumping, and Stroud, I get it. You try to make plays, and more often than not, whenever he slips out of a sack and is able to kind of run around and find Nico Collins, it's an amazing play. But at the same time, and I know it's easy for me to say being an armchair quarterback and not being out there in the fire, but he does a lot of times where he's trying to make a play, he's trying to extend the play, and it actually hurts him physically and metaphorically. I mean, the team loses yards on a sack, and he gets hit in the process. More often than not, I've seen CJ Stroud try to make plays happen and then at the last second just try to run out of bounds and lose 2 or 3 yards in the process. Just throw that ball away. CJ needs to know when to give up on a play. And it's heroic, and I get what he's trying to do. He's a leader. He's trying to put the team on his back. But at the same time, he's hurting the team by not just giving up on the play and living to fight another day. Because the Texans are already horrific on 1st and 2nd down, getting into 3rd and manageable. And with C.J. Stroud taking negative plays on 2nd or 3rd down, it just compounds the problem, and it makes it that much worse. So I know C.J. has his heart in the right place. He has his head in the right place trying to make those plays and trying to extend those plays. But sometimes he just knows he's just got to know when to give up and when to just, throw the ball out of bounds and go to the next play. Now, the AFC playoff picture somewhat set going into the final week 18. Obviously, the Ravens and Steelers, they can flip-flop, or you might be able to play the Chargers as well. But regardless of who the Texans play, they need to turn things around on offense, and they need to fix those problems. And as in they, I'm talking to you, Mr. Bobby Slowik. Please, for the love of God, I'm holding out hope. That's what I'm doing here. I'm holding out hope, and I'm blindly optimistic that this team can turn around because I don't want this season to end. I know a lot of y'all are checked out. I know a lot of Texans fans are tired of this team and how they performed this season, really underperforming the entire year. I just hope that they can turn it around and get to that spark. Have that fun. Some of this. Let's have some of that out there on the field. I want to see CJ Stroud and this team have some fun out there. Can we make football fun? Can we do that? Please. I'm just hopeful that at least some of these fixes we can get done before the playoffs so that we have a fighter's chance to make it to the Super Bowl this season. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. As I said, if you haven't already, hit that sub button. You can also follow me on Twitter at Chuggs, giving you the dankest memes on the internet. More coverage around the Houston Texans. I've been tweeting about the Rockets as well and the NFL. So go hit me up. My DMs are always open, and make sure you hit that sub button.